All right, we're back. We're going to try something different this time. And it's COMP305 in the fall 2017 semester, and it's week 10, part 2 of our broadcast. We're still talking about animation, and we're continuing with our Anima2D broadcast, our examples that we're using. And this is, again, for Centennial College. All right, so back to where we were when we last left off. Everything was good. We're working on this problem with this leg, and we had a problem with Unity kept crashing. I think it was just because I was overloaded from a memory perspective. I had a lot of stuff going on. So hopefully we won't have that same problem right now. All right, so fantastic. I've got my my game so far. It's got this hero, and he's got these these body parts, and all they are is a series of mesh sprite meshes. That's what they are to create this, and we're compositing or putting them together so we can kind of make our hero object. Okay, now we want some bones, and this is why we're doing all this stuff in the first place. Right? We want some bones. Now there are some ways we can do this so that we don't. We can make the bones part of the hero if we want to, and that's cool. But I think what we need to do is kind of say, so here's our hero body, right? And this is our the actual hero objects, if you will. And then there's going to be our bones. So I want to kind of group all this into his body, like his torso, if you will, right? Everything you want. So I'm going to make another empty, right? Which I'm going to call kind of the body, but we'll rename it. So we'll say, actually, here, we'll do this. We'll make this, instead of body, we'll call this torso. Right? That's what that is. And then we'll make this the body object. That's right. And we'll just rename this so that it's got torso like in our naming scheme. Cool. All right. And then we'll make this body object kind of in the hierarchy of the hero. We'll put it kind of in the model on this one, right? And we'll take all this and we'll put this inside the body. So the body, the hero torso. I don't know why it didn't take that. There we go. So that's kind of hidden. So I can kind of say hero body, and then it'll be highlighting this whole area here. Okay. But now I want bones. So I want to kind of add on the same level as hero. Again, this is all inside the empty object that was the hero object. I'm going to create a new TD object, or a new create empty, new empty object called bones. There we go. And inside my bones, I'm going to make a new 2D object called bone. Now you get this funky 2D object happening here, okay? And what this is a bone. This is the area that you can rotate from, right? This is kind of the control point. And this is the actual bone length itself. Now what we want to try and do is, and again, I'm just going to move this over a little bit so we can see, is I want to kind of place this bone, kind of use this as the root bone. So kind of in the bottom, almost like his tailbone. So I'm going to take this. Notice that there's two ways you can click this bone. So this bone we're going to call, again, there's root or hip. Here's the hip bone. And what you notice is if I actually click anywhere here inside the length, I can rotate it, right? If I click here, though, in the middle, so the actual bone itself, and see if I can zoom in here so you can see it more. But if I click not the bone, right, but just right on the bone itself, you should be able to translate this bone a little bit differently. So there's rotation like this, and then we should be able to do this a little differently. So if I click on the bone itself, you got this little square box here. This little square box allows you to actually move it, right? All right, now what I want to do is I want to make sure that the rotation is 90, right? So that's what I want to do, so straight up. I want to put it as close to the neck, or kind of in the middle of his body as possible, so kind of in line with his neck right now. I want to also change the length. The bone itself has a length that I can kind of reduce. Right, there we go. So kind of up until it touches his the middle part of his body, because I may want to deform his body in the middle, like have kind of like half his body fold up or whatever. I don't know if there'll be that kind of circumstance, but that's what it is. So that's his hip bone. I'll save that. Okay. And now what I want to do is I want to add another one. So I want to kind of right click on here, right, when it allows me to. And I want to go 2D object, right? And I want to add another bone. And I want to do the same thing. I want to reduce the length, so right down, so that it just kind of comes into the neck area there. That's where the neck area is. And this is going to be kind of the spine. We'll call this spine. So hip, spine. And again, in a bigger character, you might have more spine bones, right? And we're going to deform the mesh this way, okay? So the spine is kind of going to be straight. Here's something that I want you to notice. If I click on this or click this, you can see that the bones are using something called forward kinematics. And forward kinematics is like you have a parenting system of bones. So I have the parent bone and I have the child bone. And wherever the child rotates, so too does the parent. Wherever the parent bone rotates, the child follows. And what happens is it's a series of nodes. So this will be the first node, this bone here. This is another node. And this parent node controls where the local position of the child node is in terms of its rotation and location. All right, so again, if I rotate this back to 90 degrees, so you can actually type 90 in here. This is good, but what I may want to do is, eventually change the way this bone is facing, because he's pretty much straight up here. Okay, so this is one of his bones. I want also, from his spine, I want to go into his head. Now we could have a neck. If he had a longer neck, I could probably do that. In this particular case, he doesn't. So I want to kind of have one bone that kind of shoots into his head, allowing us to change things around. Okay. And looks like, for whatever reason, we have this massive problem today with Unity. I'm not sure if it's because I'm broadcasting at the same time. Not sure why that's happening, but it's just not liking what I'm doing, right? Not liking it at all, in fact. So you're going to have to suffer with me while I do this today. Normally it doesn't happen. Darn, if I was at school, this would be perfect. I would be running like twice as fast. But now the resets is just driving me nuts. After this, I'm going to put this up on GitHub because I haven't been doing it. I'm not following my own advice. And I'll be able to get back into this. But the good thing is I did save one time. So hopefully it would have remembered all the extra stuff I did. And it does remember body and bones, but I only have hip. All right, cool. So let's go back to the hip bone. And we're going to just zoom in there so we can see that hip bone more. And that's fine. We didn't lose much because I've been saving a lot. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to add another 2D object. It's going to be a bone. I'm going to reduce that right down. It's going to go into the neck here, 0.16. I'm going to save that. I'm going to call it spine. And then I'm going to do the same thing where I add another bone that goes, kind of cuts across the head like that. So I'm going to go right click, new bone. There it is. Again, reduce that length to, let's say, 0.5. And then rotate it this time so that it is, the head is kind of, it's going to take at least, so this is like kind of an oval shape. So I want the bone to kind of intercut into this whole shape. And it's not quite that. That's pretty good. Save. And that's going to be the head bone. Head bone. And I want to add some additional bones from the spine. So this is the spine. Oops, undo. From the spine of the, I'm also going to add a couple of other bones for the top of my shoulders and so on. So one of them is going to be this upper arm. So I'm going to kind of go add a new bone. We'll call this upper arm dot R for right. And we're going to position this upper arm, right? So by clicking onto it, I love when this happens. Position this upper arm so that way it is here. Now notice what I'm doing. I don't want the bone to be up this way. This is where the actual pivot point is. I want the bone actually to point down this way. I'm going to change this to 0.3, maybe even less. 0.1. And I want to position this thing so that it's exactly on the shoulder. It's very important that you position it so where it's going to rotate. All right, and I want to go right to the elbow. I want my elbow to be right there, so maybe more than 0.1, maybe less than 0.2. There we go. And then just kind of put it even less than that. 1.3. There we go. And then kind of put it right there. We're inside the arm here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's right here. And I want to put another bone here. So this one will be the upper arm right. And it's in the same, it's under the spine because it's kind of connected to the spine, right? So spine, upper arm right. Okay, cool. Let's make another arm bone, but inside the upper arm bone. So here, Add another bone. We're going to call this lower arm dot R for right. Again, we're going to reduce the size of this to 0.1, 3.2 in this case. Then we're going to rotate it around this way, so it kind of points down into the hands, maybe 0.23. Yeah, there we go. And that's our this side. Okay, now sometimes what I like to do, I want to go to the torso and hide it for a second so I can see, and this leg too. So this leg, probably the left leg, hide the left leg for a second. So I can see this guy's arm, because the arm is really what I'm trying to fulfill here. So let's also get rid of the right arm. I'm just hiding them right now. I'm just unclicking them so you can see the arm, because this is the next one I'm going to make. I'm going to make the arm kind of go here. Now, and this is the challenge, right? Because I got my spine, but the arm is kind of way over here, right? So I'm kind of messed up here in terms of my positioning. And, just to make it so that it makes sense, I'm going to put the arm so that it's on the right side of the spine, right? I could also move the spine over, but if I bring these other parts back just for a second, we're going to have to reposition some of that to be put back. So it looks like this arm is just unseeable, right? If I don't do this, but I'm going to rotate this arm back to the way it was just a little bit, so that way, I can still see it, but it's going to be here. So the arm is still going to be behind the body, but not on this side of the body, which would have been really weird. And let's move this up just a touch more, because that makes it so that it is right there, and maybe even there, more, because the hand should appear even higher. And the reason for that it's like this is because my arm is actually too big. It's the same size, which was a mistake, I guess. I could probably scale it. Let's see if I can scale it in a little bit. That's not totally recommended, but let's see if that will help here, because it just needs to be a little bit smaller because it's in the back, right? So it'll appear smaller, right? So just a little bit different. Let's rotate it just a bit more, because I just don't want to it's too much of a problem here with this arm. So the peak set. Okay, that's a little better. So I kind of scaled it a little bit, rotated it, and now you can see that arm is there. And I want to make another bone that goes this way. So I'm going to get rid of the torso, just not show the torso. And so the bone is going to start again just on this side over here on the arm, right? Just to see how it looks. Okay, so the bone is going to be over here. All right, so again, it's in the spine area. So I'm going to kind of go over here to see what I've got. You can see that I've got my spine and my upper arm. I could totally copy this, but it has to be a little different. So I'm going to go to my spine and open up another bone. So create new object, bone. There it is. And I want to reduce this again to like 0.2. I want to move this around by grabbing this point here and putting it at the shoulder. I'm going to spin it around here, so by manually. And I want to kind of stop it in there, because that is where my elbow is going to be, just somewhere in there. So I'm going to kind of go and even reduce that more. It's not bad. Even further up, that might be a good place to put it. So right kind of in the middle, should be kind of in the middle of the entire geometry there. And then add another bone, and we're going to call this the upper arm dot left. Save. And then we're going to make another bone where we're going to do this as 0.2, maybe 0.15. And it kind of go into the hand like that. So there's that's what this looks like. It's not that bad. Even though it's kind of outside, you'll see how that works. In a bit, we're going to call this lower arm dot L for left. Okay, so we've got this part here. And now we need to put back the torso. So we can go back to the body and put back the torso so we see what that looks like. That's good. And now we'll also do the leg bones. And for that one, I'm going to get rid of, just not show the arm, the right arm there for a second. So the arm is going to disappear. And I'm going to put the, so now instead of the spine, I'm going to go from the hip, because the hip is where it's going to be. So the spine, which is really like our shoulder area or whatever, and the hip is kind of our, kind of the bottom side of our body, right? So now I'm going to kind of make a bone that goes here. That starts from here, it goes down to the knee area, the short bone. Another one that goes from the knee down to the ankle, and the ankle to the foot. So there's going to be 3 bones per side. All right, so right click, add 2D object bone. We're going to call this upper leg dot right. We're going to make this 0.2. Might be even too big. I'm going to take this and move it over here, so it's inside the body, almost like a hip bone. And yeah, it's too big. I'm going to reduce this to 0.1. There we go. Okay, so that's kind of in here. It should be roughly centered, and this is where the knee is going to be in here. We're going to deform. All right, cool. Save, and then I'm going to add another one. So another bone, 2D object, bone. We're going to call this lower leg. R. I'm going to reduce this again to about 0.2, just so we can see it. That's actually not bad. But this time, instead of being straight, it's going to go kind of towards the ankle. So that's going to maybe even a little longer, 0.23, let's say. Even more, 0.5. Yeah, that's good. I like it almost down to the floor level. And then across this way is where the next bone is going to be, right? And that next bone is going to be the foot bone. So right click here. I'm going to go another 2D object, another bone. We're going to make it so that it is 0.1. Again, so we can see it. Obviously, that's not right. So we're going to go here, make this foot dot R for right foot, and then increase the size of that to about 0.2, maybe 0.25. That's looking pretty good. That's his right foot. Cool. So we got this thing. Now, for this one, because his legs are kind of the same size, I'm tempted to copy it, like do one of these and then duplicate it like this, right? And then actually what I'm going to do is physically move this bone from one side to the other. Now, in order for me to place it properly and adjust it, I'm going to have to hide the right leg. So I'm going to go to the right leg and then hide it for a second, right? And then I can see the left leg, right? So here's this bone, right? I'll move this kind of in place a little bit higher up because it would be higher up in the back, right? His knee is roughly going to be where it is. I think I like that. I might reduce the size of this bone here, or this bone here a little bit, just by a touch. So again, you notice the length is 0.1. That's probably the smallest I can get it to. This is 0.25. That looks pretty right, actually. And I want to kind of adjust it so that it's not quite straight, right? And this bone will be the cause of that. So kind of down to the heel and back there. Now this kind of prompts me to want to pull the spine back a little bit. So oops, undo. So I click on the spine bone and then just push it back a little bit here, and I'll adjust everything again. Then what I can do is I just have to move some of these other control bones around because this way it gives me a chance to do some more separation of this stuff. This means that my spine won't be completely in the middle, right? Now let's bring back the legs and adjust it. So this leg is not going to be called upper leg right. It's going to be called upper leg left. This one will be called lower leg left. Lower leg left. And this one on the bottom, open this up, will be foot left. Foot left. Okay, cool. So I've got all that. It's the bones. That's what that is. But we have to make some adjustments now because we move things around. So let's bring those back. So here's the right leg. You can see that that needs just a touch of an adjustment now. Just a bit, just this way. Again, moving it to the right just a bit. And this needs to go even more this way. And this can be a little bit shorter because it's not quite as long because he's going to be shorter. All right, good. And this part, the arm, if I look at the arm here, so if I go back to here and look at the right arm, bring that right arm back, it's not looking that bad, right? I probably would want to bring this joint here, just a touch this way, right? Into this part of his body, right? And same thing with this. This needs to move back out to this part. And if I just to hide the torso, just to see that other arm, it's not bad positioning. So again, I've just adjusted his body a little bit. His neck maybe a little bit too. Let's take a look. Bring the torso back, and we're just going to kind of bring it over here. Save. So that's not bad. His neck is not kind of centered anymore. But what I'm going to do just to adjust it is just slightly adjust this part. No, I won't do that. I don't think it's necessary. I think I keep it as is. Okay, cool. So that's bones. The bones are done. So we have bones as an example here, right? And but now we want to link the bones to the geometry, and that's part of what forward kinematics is all about. What you do is you have a base pose, which is this, and what we want to do is we want to capture the bones, right? That so they have an influence over the vertices that we've defined, so we can deform the mesh. Okay. So what do you do? Well, you got to decide each of these objects here, and again, I'm going to save everything, has a set bones kind of part. And I want to set for the torso, I want to set two bones. I want to set the hip and the spine. There's a couple ways to do this. I can add a couple of bones that I want to add in. And one of the ones I want to add in is the hip and the spine. Now, if I add a spine bone, so here's the spine, and here's the hip. I can kind of do that individually. The hip and the spine, and let's save that. Okay, that's for the torso. And for the head, I want to do the same thing. So I'm going to click on the head. And now for this head, I'm going to just add one of those. Again, I can always drag and drop up here too, but I want to be careful about that. So I want to kind of go into the head and drag and drop that. Okay, that's the head. So the head has that bone. For the arm, let's go to the, oh, there's two left arms. Left arm. Where's that? I have two left arms. I don't know how that happened. Definitely don't want that one. Let's delete that one. But for the left arm, that was weird. I don't know how that happened, but I definitely want to do the same thing. So I want to add that in. For the left arm, I want two bones. So I want to have the upper bone and the upper arm left, right? So this is the hip and spine. So spine is where the upper arm comes from. So upper arm left, this one goes here. And the lower arm left, which goes here. Okay, so that's the arm. Then the right leg, I'm just going to go in order here. That's why I'm doing this. Right leg has three bones. So now this is a trick that I would do for the right leg. And see how there's a non-transformation for set bones? I'm going to take this whole thing and put it in there, and it'll just put it in there, drop it in there for me automatically. That's the right leg. And the right arm, I can kind of do the same trick because there's only these two bones. So I'm going to go to the right arm, and I'm going to take the upper right arm and just drag and drop that in there. Those are good. We're pretty good there. And the left leg, I'm going to do the same thing that I did with my right leg. Just take this whole thing here and just drag it in. All right, so we've got our left leg, we've got our right leg, we've got all the bones set, right, as we feel. But we need to modify the meshes and bind the meshes to the bones. And the way to do that, of course, is through our meshes. So if I go back to the meshes, I can look at my hero meshes for my body. And I want to go into my, this is where it crashes sometimes. I'm going to save Windows on Anima2D sprite mesh editor. It's crashing for me. It probably won't crash for you. For me, who knows why today, but lots of trouble. So if you notice here, I've got this thing. Got this mesh here. And if I click on the head, right, or the left arm or the right arm, it's showing me the meshes, right? Those are what I've got there, okay? But what I want to do is those bones, right? If I kind of edit the sprite mesh, I want to kind of bind, like right now it's unbound, right? That's what I've got. But I want to bind the mesh to the bones, right? And now why is that happening? It's happening because if I go to my torso, right? So here's my torso. Notice that here I'm seeing the bones in here. Before in here in my sprite mesh, I wasn't seeing it. But when I click here, it's showing the bones. Okay, now you can see that I've got these two bones in here. And what I want to do is click bind. And if I want to see what the overlay looks like, you can see that there is something called weight painting going on, automatic weight painting, where there's the yellow bone, which is the spine, is taking on the influencing these verts, and the red bone, which is the hip, is influencing all these vertices, right? Okay, so that's what that's doing. I don't have to see that right now, but I'm going to save that. I bound it. And I'm going to go to each individual one. So here's the head. I'm going to apply that, right? So if I go back to the torso, there it is. I'm going to go to the head. There's that head bone. I'm going to bind it, right? I'm going to apply it. Here's my left arm. I'm going to bind it. I'm going to apply it. Here's my right leg. I'm going to bind it and apply it. If I see any problems in here, I can always change this, right? My right arm, I'm going to bind it and apply it. And my left leg, I'm going to bind that one and apply that one. All right, so that is really binding everything. Now, right now, if you check it out, you can actually, with this, I can actually move my mesh around now and have some control, right? Let me just make my gizmos a little bit smaller for my 3D icons here. It's way too big right now. Yeah, so I can move these body parts around. So if I actually grab this, you can see I have the arm, right? And this arm here, so I can move this around just from this joint. So it looks like, I can animate my character any way I like, right? So there's my leg, right? And I can even animate the foot separately, and it kind of deforms everything. And this is what you want to try and do, kind of deform the mesh as much as you can to see what it looks like when you do stuff. It looks pretty good, right? It looks pretty good. So I'm going to save this. Hey, this is a great place to put it up on GitHub. I'm going to close Unity up. And I'm going to give you this so that way, worst case scenario, you can do all that. You can grab mine. Git commit -m. Say added bones. Push origin master. So it's going to push it up to GitHub, so you'll have everything as well. It'll give you a chance to see, to kind of get what I got from then, continue from where I am right now. All right, great. That wasn't a bad run before it didn't crash. I'm jinxing myself because now that I'm saying that, it's going to crash more. All right, so fantastic. So now it's going to come back up. And we're ready to start doing some other things. Now, one of the things we did, we talked about forward kinematics, which is if I modify one joint like this, then you can see that I can have multiple joints transform, and it's going to follow the parent transformation. So if this is the parent transformation, then you see that the arm kind of moves, and I have this, kind of these things in place. And same thing for the hip. This is the most dangerous part, because if I move this, the whole body will shake. Hey, look at this. I got an extra torso for some freaking reason. Or maybe the torso didn't bind. Did I bind the torso? Maybe I didn't. Okay, that was a mess up. So I'm gonna go back to my torso. And yeah, where is the torso? It's way over there. And it didn't bind somehow. That is kind of messed up. So why is that? Let's see what happened to the torso. So I'll say overlay, I'll unbind, and I'll bind that again. Yeah, something messed up. For sure. Because otherwise the torso should have moved. And that's going to cause us a future problem. Yeah. Yep. Looks like we're just going to have a fantastic day in Unity land today. But it's okay, because we just have to keep going and not complain, because it's a game engine. Lots of people spend lots of hours building, and it could be my Mac, it could be memory usage, it could be I'm broadcasting, a billion things that won't happen to you. So better to keep positive. All right, that was really weird. Yes, so let's try that again. So really what the problem was when I did this, I kind of lost my torso. That's what I saw. All right. It's almost like the binding for the torso didn't quite work, right? Like I got this part, that kind of works. Let's see. Kind of not, right? So the whole other body worked, but not the torso. And I wonder if it's because of my torso, the way I bound it, the way I bound the hip and the spine. Maybe that hip and the spine have to be unbound somehow again. Let's just try that again. So I'm gonna undo this, and we'll do it manually. So hip and spine bones. So we'll say spine goes here, and we have the hip to go here. Right, there we go. And that's the hip transformation. That's where it is right now. And just to go back into sprite editor, so we're going to go back to the hip, and we're going to unbind and rebind the hip. That's what causes the crash last time, and of course it's happening again. That's a very bad thing, guys. Very bad thing, because it should totally bind, no problem. Worst case scenario, what we're going to have to do is bring back this torso and redo some of that mesh skinning like we've been doing right now. That's what we did with all that stuff, and rebuild that torso piece. because the spine and all that stuff is working fine, but it's looking like it's just not liking what I'm trying to do here, which kind of sucks. All right. Yeah. And just to, like, everything else is following except for the torso. That's it's really unfortunate, all I can say. But we're gonna get through this because this is part of it, right? And again, for you, it may not be crashing as much. And if it's not, fantastic. Okay. Yeah. So what I'm going to try and do here is do something totally different. So I'm going to get rid of the torso. Just get rid of it. I'm going to kind of do delete the torso bone altogether. So there's no more torso. The guy's got like no body at all. And what I'm going to do instead is bring back the body, right? And make it parented to the body, right? Here it is. And that kind of goes in place. But we have to change this to, say, torso. There we go. What happened there? Oh, we got a hip attached to it and the spine? That is weird. What the heck happened there? That we have extra bones, so we can delete that stuff. All right. That is a weird transformation too. So let's just go to, oh, because you know why? It's picking up the fact that I had something called torso before. All right, let's get rid of that. Delete. And we'll just call it body. That way there won't be any kind of thing with it. So there's a body and the body for the body. But the body has a hip and everything else because it was a sprite mesh. Yeah, I love it. So, sorry, just trying to correct my problem here. So let's get rid of this. Delete. Yes. And we're going to go back to my original thing just from this is messed up. My hero parts. We're going to grab my body again. And we're going to create an Anima2D sprite mesh for it called body. Now it shouldn't remember anymore, and we're going to put this in sprite meshes. So sprite meshes, there we go, into the hero. And from the hero, we're going to take this back here. There it is. And I'm going to pull this back into the body. Ah, now it didn't work. Okay, cool. Call it torso. Excellent, excellent. I'm liking that. And I'm going to go back into this. I definitely want to go into sprite mesh editor, where we can edit the sprite mesh. I'm going to zoom in there. We're going to have to make some minor adjustments like we did last time. It looks like some weird artifacts we're getting, right? So we're going to definitely slice this up, apply the slice, undo it, go back in and do that little piece again because I just didn't like it. I didn't like that that part. And just to shift click, I thought we were done this, but we just not. That's totally fine. And just doing this again. Keeping in mind that we don't want anything to deform too much, but like that is a weird deformation there. And yeah, I'm gonna put this a little higher so we get some of that stuff in the body, the torso. And we definitely want to add, I'm going to do those changes because I got a line. I don't want that line. That line is like an exterior line that can cause a lot of issues. That edge. I want only interior edges, not exterior edges. All right, now we can click all over the place to create that additional stuff in there. Maybe around here as well. Save that. apply, go back to the scene, and change the torso so that it is part of order and layer 0, 1, 2, I think it's 3. Yeah, it looks pretty good. One thing we didn't do, which is probably a good idea, is to get the sorting order into a almost its own layer. I want to create my own sorting layer, which I want to call hero. I didn't do that last time. And then go back to the head. That's this head part. Make sure we rename this as head and change the sorting layer to hero. So change all these to hero, just so that way the sorting layer, if I ever want to target the sorting layer with code, I can do that, right? So I can hide certain things and whatever. All right, so there we go. Now bones for the torso. The torso needs 2 bones. I'm going to do it differently this time. When I go and grab the spine or the hip and grab that from the hip down, and we'll have to erase some stuff. It's easier to erase than kind of to destroy. So there's a bunch of these now. That's why I didn't want this to happen. And I want to kind of click this and then kind of click it twice to delete it. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And I want to keep the hip and the spine. So those are the only 2 that I want to keep. But I wanted to do it this way because of maybe that's what messed us up last time. So save that. Yay. Now I'm going to go back to the meshes, sprite meshes. Right. So click away and click back. We should have those. Bind the mesh. Right. Save. And now that should allow us to do one of these. Isn't that interesting? Just doesn't like binding that part. Why? Well, it says none. Like set bones is none, and looks like the other ones don't have that problem. It's like it's not liking setting the spine as this. And by the way, in testing, this didn't happen in any way. Like none of this happened. So the hip and the spine were the main bones, and those are the bones that were influencing the body to change, to deform. And now it looks like it's just not liking that bones. So if I go to, it looks like it has 2 heads too. That's really weird. Maybe because I called it body instead of torso. Maybe if I rename this part. That didn't seem to make any difference. And it could be a naming thing. Like you never can tell. But now it's not really called body anymore. And I've renamed them all anyway. Right? Because when I brought them in, yeah, only body changed, eh? Body and head. Does head move? Yeah, head moves fine. But not the torso, not this part. Looks like it just leaves that part behind. Like this. Like, see? Like it doesn't like that part. That's the only part it doesn't care about. It doesn't morph that part or whatever. And I'm not sure why. That's never happened before to me. Well, I'm not one to give up. So we're going to try that transformation a little differently. Let's try just the hip. So I want to again grab the body because it doesn't seem that it's taking a transformation. It says none, which is weird for set bones. And it's like it's not looking at the hip or the spine as a bone. So let's try and look at the hip as a bone. Okay, so it took all of these, took all those, and the set transformation is none. So if I click away and click back, it still says none. Oh, because they haven't been, it's almost like they haven't been bound. That's what it feels like. Like there's not enough points on the spine to bind them all. So let's get rid of this. Let's see this one more time. Bind poses. Maybe I have to make a bind pose. Didn't have to do that before, but hey, it says warning, number of sprite mesh bind poses and number of bones does not match. We don't have a bind pose yet, but we will. All right, so that's one. Let's go back to the sprite mesh editor. And yeah, we'll unbind, save, bind, smooth, Ah, doesn't seem that it's liking this bind, eh? Smooth. Yeah, see, it's not really binding the overlay. Okay, let's apply that change. Okay, that took. Now that took. See, I see that this is changed now. At least it was here. Let's go back. Is it still there? Yes. That, I don't know why that worked this time, but now we should see, yes, the whole body moving. Okay, that was weird. So I guess it just didn't take in the sprite mesh. It's my Unity problems, I'm sure. Okay, so whoa, I've got this part here, and I'm ready to add some other things here. But the one key that I have is moving each individual bone to kind of do my animation would really be kind of a pain in the ass, right? If I kind of did this, and it might not look good. So what we do after for kinematics is we add something called inverse kinematics, almost like providing a place where a reference point where the bones will seek towards. Okay, that's what it's like. So right now the bones aren't seeking; they're just when I deform them, or when I move the parent, the child moves too. But that's going to be really long. So we can add something called inverse kinematics, or IK. For this, though, I definitely don't want to put it inside the bones. That'd be really difficult. I want to make another section in the hero called IK. So I'm going to create another empty object. I'm going to call this IK for inverse kinematics. I'm going to put all my IK bones in here. Right, so okay, make a new 2D object. There's two different ones. There's IKCCD and IK limb. Now, for most of them, I want to use IK limb. IKCCD is kind of weird. We'll only use it for the foot bones, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So let's go add an IK limb. Kind of gives us this little circle. What I want to do here is I want to move it so that it is at the base of my, or the end. It's a, kind of an end effector is what they usually call it. The end of my, I'm going to zoom right in there so you can see it, of my arm bone here. That's the first part. Okay, so it's going to, the point of it, this little point right here, is almost at the exact end of the arm. Okay. And I'm going to call this the IK arm right. IK arm right. And I'm going to bind this thing. The target is going to be this lower arm, right? So I'm going to kind of go to the bones, and I'm going to go to my lower arm bone. So on the right, this one, drag and drop. Now, if you notice, it turns blue, and there's these two bones that also turn blue. Okay. And if I move it, I get this natural looking motion for both the shoulder and the arm, which is kind of what I want. And this is the key for animation. There's also this other thing called flip. Flip actually does not what I want to do. If I had another kind of a weird leg or something, I could flip it, but I'm not going to do that here. So I'm not going to do the flip. Flip is for other situations. Okay, let's do the same one. I want to get another one of these, right? Another IK, save it. I want to get another IK. So 2D object, IK limb. And we're going to call this IK arm left, right? And again, I'm going to move this thing so that it is at the bottom of, the tip of it is at the bottom of the other arm. And I'm going to go to the lower arm on the left. And I'm going to drag and drop it into this one. There we go. So that kind of gives that bone direction. So again, I can move that bone around, right? And if I can't reach it, it'll point to it, right? That's part of the what IK is all about. So it'll help me with some of the animation that I'm going to be doing. Okay, so save that. I need some for the legs, so I'm going to put the IK. Now I'm not going to put it on the feet, and you're going to see it's going to mess up for a bit. But I'm going to put two IK on the feet, one for the heel and one for the toe. All right, so let's do that one. So I'm going to go right click to the IK limb, and we're going to call this IK leg R for the right one, and we're going to pull this one down. So it's kind of, again, the point is going to be right where the IK joint is, right there. Again, I'm going to drag and drop from the lower right leg, not the foot, but the lower right leg to here. There we go. And, you know, it's connected, right? And we should always test it, because even though I've got this thing, we should test and see how it works. So this is kind of okay. You can see that it'll bend the red leg, but it bends it the wrong way. This is a great case for flip. If I flip it now, it should bend the right way. See how how it's pointing? I can't affect my foot right now, and it's kind of breaking in some areas. The reason why it's breaking like this is because there's not enough control points that I put in place, right? So it doesn't know what to do, and we have to fix that, and we're going to fix that later on. So let's just put that back. I'm just going to undo so it gets back to where it looks like it's a normal location for it, which is right there, and we'll fix that in a bit. Okay, so now the next part is that I'm going to go to 2D objects, IK limb, just like we did last time, IK right dot L, leg dot L. I'll be okay. And we'll move that one down so it is at the bottom of the other leg. There it is, this one here. And we'll do the same thing. So lower leg left, we're going to drag and drop that into there. So now that does that. And again, we should test it, see how it responds. So it kind of breaks the other way, just the way it is. I'm going to flip it so it doesn't break that way. So it kind of makes a knee. Now there's some really weird things. See that funky area right there? It kind of gives us a bit of a gluteus maximus that breaks at the bottom. So this is part of us chopping the character up a little bit weirdly. We could have done that differently. So I'm going to undo that. Change, so he's back to normal. So save that. So I've got a couple of IKs there. And I want to make some IKs for the feet, but they're going to be different kinds. They're going to be the other kind, the IKCCD. So I'm going to right click here. I'm going to go another IKCCD this time. And I'm going to call this IK foot right. For this one, I'm going to definitely put it at the tip of the foot. It's always at the tip that you have to put it, right? So it's kind of hard to see here because the IK bones are the wrong color. Let's make this IK bone just a different color so I can see it. There we go. And we're going to go back to that IK foot right. And so we can see that as close as possible to that bone, right? And I can change the color of that bone back to white, just to keep it all the same. Or black, or whatever you like. Okay, so now that this IK is there, which is this IK, I want to transform from the foot now. The foot right goes here. Immediately, you don't see a transformation because you have to mention the number of bones. I want one bone, which is just the foot bone. Perfect. So now this turns blue. Just see how the left one is not blue, but this one is blue. So now if I move the foot actually deforms up and down. But there is a problem I see over here. And like I said, I'm going to have to go back into the leg and modify, add a few more control points and rebind and all that stuff, which I'm afraid about for this particular example. All right, one more time. So an IK foot. This time I'm going to duplicate, right, instead of copy. So I've got my IK foot right. I'm going to put it on the tip of the other foot, right? So there it is. This is easier to see in this case because the way the colors are. So it's kind of right about here. And we'll rename this IK foot left. I just duplicated instead of doing it by hand. Excellent. And I want to move, it's still got one bone, but we need a target. So we need the different target. So we're going to have that, it's the left foot, not the right foot. There it is. And now you see that there's a target for everything. Okay, so now I can actually do a foot kind of thing. If I want to move the foot up, I can do the actual, this IK where I, move the bone. If I try and move the bone, it's kind of funny. It'll kind of seek back towards there, right? So kind of having two IKs is weird as well. But that's why we use kind of the techniques to make this all work. Okay, cool. So if I go IK right leg or left leg, I can move the leg and the foot will follow because that's the stuff about FK. Now there's some really weird stuff because look, it's trying to follow this point right here, right? So this is IKCCD. IK, which is weird. It's kind of should be at the tip of the foot. Oh yeah, I know what I did. I know what I can fix. I know how I can fix that. Let's just fix that back up and put it all back in place. Not quite. I didn't do it quite right. So these should use these other ones as parents. All right. So example, here's the IK foot right. It should be part of the IK left leg, right? And the IK foot left should be part of this one. So now when I move this from a parenting perspective, right, then I should be able to see that work a little better. And I'd like to test it that way for exactly these reasons. So I move it up now. You can see that, okay, now it's kind of weird. Now it's almost like I got to take away or did I, add that flip in there like I talked about, right? So this kind of moves the leg in a good, makes it good. The situation is working well. Same thing for this one. Let's say IK right. Definitely, we didn't have the flip. The flip went away almost. I want to put the flip back. Right, so this kind of does the knee a little better. Looks a lot better than before, right? So that's pretty cool. Save. And if I zoom out now, I have all the IKs I need. I'm not going to put one for the head. The head's probably kind of good on its own. And the great thing is when I animate and I put it on the spine, I can do weird things now. I can kind of make it so that there's natural motion, right, for the, for him to jump. So if I want to do a jumping animation, I kind of go down and then he can go up, and that can kind of be cool in terms of how the jumping animation works, right? So that's kind of cool. It kind of gives it a more realistic look and feel, because you got both IK targets and FK. So forward kinematics for the joints to work together, so they know what the parents and the children are, and then you've got the inverse kinematics, so that you can kind of detect almost like a ground or a target for where the forward kinematic joints are pointing to. So kind of really cool. I'm getting this weird error, but I'm going to clear that up. So I don't know what does that mean. But from a scene perspective, if I run, I'm just going to build and compile everything. You can see that nothing's going on right now. It says not allowed to override geometry on sprite right leg. Maybe that's something that's causing us to have a problem, right? Maybe I did something wrong on the sprite. One thing we did notice is on the editor on my right leg, if I go to my right leg, and we had some issues on this thing. It kind of deformed weird, and it's probably because of these lines that happen here. It's almost like I've got to slice and this whole thing again. So if I go back to slice and I go to apply, I think I want to try and do this again. Right, and then maybe do that binding and unbinding stuff. All right, so I'll apply the slice and then get rid of it. I'm going to unbind that leg, right? Go back to the console and clear. Hopefully won't give me that same problem again. And I'm going to rebind that leg back up again. So go back to the sprite mesh editor, and then kind of change the geometry here for my right leg, because that was the one that was complaining. Not sure if that was the cause of my issues, but it couldn't figure out something that I was doing. So maybe that was the cause. I don't know. If it was, it was. If it wasn't, who knows? Sometimes, the computer's trying to figure out what us poor humans are doing, and it doesn't understand. It's only doing what we're telling it to do, and usually it only messes up if we mess up. So let's see if that is the cause of this thing. I'm going to put some more control points and then rebind everything, and hopefully that'll be the case. Now you're going to say, some of you might say, "Whoa, man, Tom, there's a lot of work here. I'm not sure what the savings is or what the advantage is for what you're doing." True. I mean, if you have frame-based animation, that's pretty cool. But we're not doing frame-based animation. This is a different kind of animation. This is more bone-based or skinning, mesh skinning. We're using bones to deform the meshes. That's what we're doing here. Undo that. That's definitely not what we want. Yeah, so it's a different form of animation that we're doing today. And now let's add some additional control points in there. Looks like there was a problem with the legs. I want to definitely add some more here, because this is where on the mesh where you're going to see a lot more issues there and here. So it's more, definitely some more on here in the knee area. So because, I know there's going to be a knee, so it's going to deform somewhere in here. So that's why I put another bone. And definitely up here, like I did before, right, where it deforms. So I've kind of got enough. Maybe I've got enough. Save. Okay, now I want to apply, and I want to go back to the bone. This is where it might mess up completely because I've unbound it. Oh yeah, look at this. Yeah. And if I go back to my right leg, I can see that I still have this bound in there, but now there's not a binding anymore for my right leg. It's like the binding has disappeared, right? So I want to kind of rebind everything, right? Rebind. And I want to kind of show the overlay and then apply the binding. And hopefully that will do it. Yeah, it looks like it's better now from that perspective. Okay, so that's kind of what it is. Now you can see I can redraw this. I can rebalance all this stuff. I'm not going to do that, right? Because it's kind of weird. Save. Go back to the scene. And now it should still work. That's a great thing. So if I grab my IKs, so if down here from the right leg, and I move it, then it should still do what I'm supposed to do, right? That's pretty cool now, right? And same thing if I go this way, it should do the same thing. And it looks pretty good. Got a bit of some white in there. That's probably from when I did the editing. But I'm not going to fix that right now. Okay, cool. So I've got my guy. Looks like he's good. I fixed him up as best as possible. I don't know why I'm getting that weird warning or error. Hopefully that won't kill me. But I've got a couple of things here. I've got my hero. And what I want to do here is there is a couple of other components I want to add in. So if I want to go to pose, I want to add a pose manager. And right now there is no pose. I want to create almost like something called the base pose. And for now, what I want to do is I want to create another folder. I want to create another folder in here. Lots of folders. Let's make another folder called poses. There. And in my hero object, I want to create a new pose, right? So we're going to call this under poses. We're going to call this our base pose. Or actually maybe bind pose, really what it should be called, my bind pose. So my bind pose is kind of like a base pose that everything else is going to be using. So that way when I animate, it's going to use that as our base pose. So it tells the computer how to do, or the program, the algorithm, how to do my mesh skinning. Okay, that's what this does. So I need that. And I also need an animator. So I'm going to add animator. My animator. Now I already have an animator, and if you remember, I don't want to change this because I have in my animations I have something called the hero animator. Now I have these idle, jump, and walk, but I'm not going to use these things anymore. These clips. Remember I created them. So for the last animation, so the hero, jump, and walk, I'm going to get rid of them right now because I don't want to use this kind of animation anymore. So I'm going to delete them. We can create them again if we need to. And in my hero animator, so if I go back to, if I save this and I kind of pull out the animation layout that I was talking about, I just save that as a layout. And if I go back to the animator, I can see that I have this situation where I have a hero idle. I don't have a clip for it yet, and a hero walk and a hero jump, right? And I want to create these three animations really quickly. Let's do the idle first. And the way you create animations really is what you do is you go to the animation and I want to make a new clip, right? That's what I want to do. So I want to go back to animations and I want to make a new subfolder called clips. And inside my clips animations, I want to make a new animation, a new clip, basically. So it's going to be like, instead of a controller, I'm going to make an animation itself. There we go. I want to call this thing hero idle. There we go. And I want to point my animator to it. So I want to go to my animator, and if I have my hero idle, I want to kind of point out that it's going to be my hero idle animation, this one, hero idle. There we go. Okay. I'm also going to create and you'll see why in a second, create a new folder called clips pre-baked. Baked all of our animations, which is kind of neat. So I got clips and clips pre-baked. The pre-baked stuff I can go and use so that when I don't have to go and do all those points, you'll see why in a bit. But just create a couple of folders here for me. All right, now what I want to do in my hero animator, right, in this hero idle, this is going to work. I have a hero idle, but it doesn't really do anything over this point. I have all my connections. I'm not going to change my programming, the stuff I did last week, right? I have my anim state and all that stuff. But in my animations, right, you can see that I have my hero idle animation. Here it is. I go to my animation clips. I want to click on my hero. And here's my, if you look at, I'm going to go to my hero itself. I'm going to go to my clips, click on hero idle, right? Do my hero idle. And I can't really do anything here, right? It's almost like I need to create a clip that kind of mashes up with my hero idle, right? So let's just create it. Instead of doing this, it's not really doing what I want it to because I have no control. And that's kind of a weird thing. Even though I've linked it and loop time should be on, let's just delete it. We'll do it the other way around. We'll do it so that when we click on the hero, he has an idle clip that we're going to make. We're going to call this hero idle. Good. And the hero idle clip himself. Oh, I see what's happened here. They have their own animator. That's what the problem was. So I'm going to get rid of this, delete the animator. I don't need the animator. I just need a hero idle clip. And in my animator, right, it should say hero idle, right, where this hero idle, I shouldn't have another exit. I shouldn't have another one, but it should point to, if I'm not wrong, my hero idle clip. There we go. Yes. There we are. Okay, so what I want to do, so I'm just checking to see how this is working here. What I want to do is in my hero, right, the controller is not pointing to the hero itself. So I got to make sure that my hero animator includes my hero. There we go. Okay, so now, and let's just rename this stuff. So I'm going to change this to hero space idle so we can see what that is. In my animator itself, it should be also renamed so that it's nice. Instead of that, it should say hero idle. There we go. Doesn't make any difference. All the coding should still work. Okay, cool. So I've got this part and I've got my animation, right? So here's like if I go back to my hero, here's the animation. Right now I'm on hero idle. There's only one clip that I have. I can make other clips. What I want to do here is I want to record. Okay. So hear me out here. So I'm gonna kind of go down here and I want to record on frame 0. So I'm recording keyframe animation. This is what this kind of thing is, right? So I'm going to click record. Now there's nothing to record because I need a base pose. And I got a base pose, but I want to kind of create it here with my IKs. So I'm going to click my right leg IK. That's what I've kind of worked on. So IK right. And I want to click on this and I want to kind of move it slightly back and forward. Notice that it creates two keyframes. And same thing for my leg left. Slightly back and forth, just so that way it's creating an initial position for those two things. And same thing for the arms. So when I go to my arm, I'm going to move it slightly left and back, just so that way, it is not really moving it much. It's just recording those pieces for my animations. Okay, that's what I'm doing. So that's my base pose. Same thing for my head. I want to kind of move that. And same thing for my hips. Move that back and forth. Right, so that I kind of recorded all those base poses, right? Cool. Okay, I'm going to save that. What I want to do now is I want to move to about, so there's like, a minute of animation here. I want to move to about 30 seconds. So when I move this is the playhead, move the playhead to about 30. You can see that I've gone to about frame 30. You can actually type it in too. So if I want to say 25, I can move to 25, or I can move back to 30. Doesn't matter which one I want, right? So I'm at frame 30. Here it is. And what I want to do here is I want to make some changes. Now, what I want to do is when he does his idle, he's going to just kind of down like this. It's going to move down. And his shoulders, his IKs are also going to move his arms forward a little bit just to make some natural movement. So his right arm is going to move a little bit forward, just a touch. And his left arm is going to move forward a little bit, just a touch. And then maybe his head is also going to move down a little bit, right? Just a touch. Yeah, so what this does, if you play back and forth, it does one of those, right? So that's his idle animation. That's what's going to happen, right? Then at about frame 60, right, or 1 minute, I'm going to copy these frames over here by right-clicking and selecting, and then going back to this frame right here and pasting. And now what I have is this kind of symmetrical animation where he's just kind of doing one of these. And that's my idle. All right, save that. My idle saved. Great. And what I want to do before I do this is, because I've got my clips, I have my hero idle. I want to make a duplicate of it. So I'm going to kind of do Command D, right? Make a duplicate of this one. And I'm going to expand this for a second just so you see it. I'm going to put my hero idle 1 in my pre-baked animation as a copy, right? So kind of go in there, and then I'll call this pre-baked. There's pre-baked. So it's baked and pre-baked, so I kind of move back and forth. There we are. And then what I want to do is I want to focus on my hero idle. I want to go to Window, Anima2D, and then I want to bake my animation, right? That's what I want to kind of do. I want to be able to bake my animation altogether, right? So notice how it doesn't say bake animation, right? And that would be because I'm not focusing on the right one. So I go back to my hero, right? And my hero idle. So I have to be in here, right? Then when I go down to Window Anima2D, it should say bake animation, right? And when I click on this, this is actually going to bake my animation and add all kinds of frames in here, like every frame that I need, right? And why am I going to do this? Because if I want to check this out now and play, and if I get rid of my, if I uncheck my IK, because I don't want to use my IK, it's too computation expensive, I can just uncheck them so they don't exist. And if I press play, we should be able to see my idle state, right? Now it doesn't do the other ones. Remember, if I press my right button or left button, it doesn't shift because I don't have the other animations right now. But that's my new idle, and that's not bad, right? If you notice what it is, that's our new idle animation that we're doing, and it was slightly different than before, right? Okay. The other one I do second is jump. I want to do the jump animation because that's the easier one to do too. Because we're going to kind of jump up. He's going to put his arms up, and then he's going to land. Now, everything when we do our animations have to happen on the same thing. We can't physically shift him. That's locomotion. Here, we're just animating. Animation, difference between animation and locomotion is really around, you have some local movements in the hero container that's just happening locally. It's not actually moving. The animation is just internal movements, if you will, right? Then there's locomotion. We're physically moving him into different positions. That's a different thing altogether. And that's something else we're going to do. All right, so that's cool. I like this. We're good. We want to make another clip. So I want to go here, and I'm going to go to create new clip. And we're going to call this clip hero jump, right? So here's my hero jump clip. And it's in here, right? We can see that that is here. I want to do the same thing as I did last time. So we have him in his base pose, right? I want to start by recording. I want to move his IKs. Let me turn those IKs back on. I'll go back to the hero. And in his IKs, his IKs are off right now. I want to turn them back on, right? So his IKs are back on, right? Now this is interesting. It says IK game is active because I'm recording, right? Which is perfectly fine. I don't care. It's not like it's going to do anything. And then what I want to do, this actually is bad because if I, let's just save that again. So undo that change and get rid of these things. I'm going to press delete to get rid of them. The reason why is because they will just turn it back on even if I turn it off, which is going to defeat the purpose of baking my animation. Okay. So let's do it again. So first we'll put them back on, and then we'll record, and then we'll do some minor movements on the legs, back and forth, just to be able to record their initial positions. Same thing goes with the arms and the head. I want to do the head too, and the torso. So head and then torso. There we go. Okay, so everything's kind of recorded. I got the basic stuff in here in terms of rotations, whatever. I'll save that. Okay, notice if I save it and if I make a mistake, I can still record. I can go back to recording, and I can move. So I can record, stop, and record, and I can go back to the next frame. Now this one, I want to have some more frames than just 3. I only have 3 frames of animation for my idle. I want to kind of go to the, maybe to 10 frames. And then what I want to do is I want to jump up. So I want to kind of move him so that he is going to gather. Now there's going to be something like an anticipation. So he's going to gather down, right? So at frame 10, he's going to move kind of down his body like this. So he's going to kind of go down, right? So I want to kind of, undo. what I want to do is kind of move him so that his just like I did last time, right? With this part here, right? Where I kind of make him sit down a little bit, right? And then what he's going to do is he's going to move his head up. So he's going to look up where he's going to jump. So he's going to come down, and then he's going to move his arms back. So let's go look at his right arm here. Move this right arm back and his left arm back just a little bit. Move this down a little bit more, right? So his left arm and right arm. And then that's what he's going to do. He's going to kind of squat down for this one. So he's going to do one of these. He's going to go from here. So from this pose, he's going to come down, right? And maybe even come down more. I don't know. Maybe even more than that. So I want to kind of make it more dramatic. Oops, undo. Because he needs to kind of exaggerate his motion a little bit, maybe even more. I don't want to move his torso back, just I want to move it down. So I want to move. So again, it's one of these. Is if you go to Unity, how much I love thee. Let me count the ways today. Let me give it a second to see if it resolves on its own. Yeah, not resolving. But that's okay because we recorded the first one and we recorded the change to this one too. Even if, that's the wrong thing. I don't want to launch that. I want to launch Unity. Even if it crashes, it's okay because I've already saved it. So that's pretty good. So again, just as this is loading back up, what are we doing here? So as you're kind of, you're kind of sinking down, you want to kind of do this idea of anticipation, right? In animation, it's one of the 12 principles of animation, anticipation, where you kind of, let's go back to that and see, where you kind of prepare the audience for something that's going to happen, where it looks like he's going to jump. It's almost an exaggerated movement, right? Because he is a character. He's not a real person. But we are going to treat him as such, right? So we're going to go back to animations. We're going to go back to clips. We're going to see that there's a hero jump. We're going to go and change our layout to animation. We're going to save, right? We still have this. This has actually been done. We're going to look at our hero, click on our hero. We can go back to the jump animation here, which is not baked yet. And we can see that we have one pose, but we haven't saved the other one. So we're going to go to this, kind of, well, actually, maybe we have, but we're going to kind of compress these till we get to about 10 seconds. There we go. Or 10 frames, if you will. And in 10 frames, we're going to start recording again. And we're going to go to, because we're going to use this body, the hip itself, right? So we're going to click on the hip. And we're going to look to see if we can just kind of come down on the hip as much as possible without moving it too much down. So squat down. He's going to look up, right? Because that's what's going to happen. This is the direction he's going to go. So kind of a exaggerated motion. He's going to also move his arms back. We're going to use his IKs. So for his arm, his right arm, where he's going to move his right arm back and down. So he's going to kind of go down and really prepare himself to jump, right? And here's his right arm. He's going to move that down and back, right? So he's going to move both those arms back, right? And then, right, he is going to jump, right? So we're going to save that pose. We're going to move to the next one. So let's say you're going to go to frame 20 now. And now we're going to grab his body. We're going to go to his torso. We're going to grab his, what's the wrong one? Bones. We're going to grab his hip. That's what I want to do. And now I'm going to kind of lift him up, right? But he's going to go in the direction that I'm moving, which is up here like this, right? So kind of up. And then that's the first position. So kind of see as the K's, they're all pointing there. They're like, boom, okay, he's going to do that. So how does this look? It kind of looks like this. It goes, boom, right? That's just scrubbing through, right? And maybe start raising his arms up. He's going to kind of look back maybe a little bit more. So kind of look back even more as his head becomes almost kind of in the direction he's looking. So even more, looking up like this. I'm just going to bring this a little bit farther out so we can see it a little better here. So again, it's like, wah, wah, as he pushes. Maybe that's not even enough, anticipation. We probably can fix up that animation a little bit more. And then the next one, this next frame here, where he comes to here, we're actually going to push his body up even higher. So we're going to go back to his hip, and we're going to push this higher up. We're going to kind of, his hands, I want to kind of move his hands up so that way his arm IK, I want to bring them up now so we can kind of, look at that. Same thing with his left arm, bring those up like this so he points to it. Pointing toes are pretty cool. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start to land, right? Oh, don't tell me to stop. I love Unity. I love Unity. I love Unity. It's not, maybe it's not Unity. It's my computer, but it is what it is. It's almost like I got to save the animation. Every time I do a clip or a different part, I save it and then I come out. It wasn't so bad for the other one, but if this is what it's going to do for this one, it's going to be a very painful exercise for the next 20 minutes. All right. Wow. That really, really sucks. Let's try it again. Oh, boy. But you see where I'm going. I think this is the great thing about doing this kind of animation. It'll look great. It'll look actually better than the frame-based stuff. Well, again, it depends on who's doing it, right? If you got a professional animator doing it, not me, then you'll have somebody, you can have a lot more, principles of animation in there that'll make it look better, more staging, more, different things that you can add into a drawn character that computers can't do it all, right? In fact, what I'm trying to do is kind of, replace the professional animator with my hocus pocus, my computer hocus pocus using, Unity. And that's not anywhere near the same as having a professional animator, right? So, a AAA company is going to definitely have somebody who is, that's all they do, right? So let's get back to this here and go back to my layout and suffer with the changes that nothing happened with my jump. I only recorded this part. Okay, one more time, and then we'll save every time. So if it messes up, we'll just save it. Okay, and we'll just do a little simpler jump. That's all we'll do. So we'll kind of bring this in. So you have no time for this. Again, what I want to do is record. I want to bring this over here to this time frame, so 10. I want to kind of grab his bones from the middle, from the hip, make sure that it's selected, and then what I want to do, I want to squash him down, right? Notice that everything squashes down. This is the great thing. I want to bring his head back like I did before, kind of a little bit. And then, again, also his IKs for his arms. So his right arm IK, I'm going to bring that down and a little bit back, right? So it's going to kind of prepare for that. His left arm IK, down and then back. You can see how the bones are moving nicely, right? Okay, there we go. And then that's great. And guess what we're going to do? Record, which stops this animation, but that's okay. We're going to go back to this. We're going to record again. We still see this thing happening, so he's going to do it. And now we're going to go to here, right? And we're going to move him back up again. So we're going to go from his hip, and now we're going to get him up, get him going. He's going to leave his IKs until he's this way, a little bit forward, right? Then he's going to rock into the middle. So he's going to go forward here like this. He's going to look back a little bit more, right? It's going to be soaring through the air a little bit, right? So it looks going to look like this. It's going to go rah. I'm preparing to jump, right? And we're going to save that one. We're going to edit. We're going to go to the next one. A little differently this time. And this time we're going to go, we're going to pick his hip again. We're going to go up a little higher up like this where he really does soar. We're going to grab these right arm and left arm IKs, bring them up, right? So he's going to kind of do one of these. Here's his right arm. Here's his left arm, right? There we go. So his left, the IKs, remember, make the character point at this stuff, his head is going to go right back to here and save, right? All right, now how this look? So it looks like this. It kind of goes, rah. It's going to jump, and then when he lands, now it's the landing part. Now what I want to do, this is kind of interesting, is I want to start doing the same thing on the other side. So when I come down to here, right, his head is going to start, he's in the process of landing, right? So in the middle, this is his middle step. So he's going to, I'm going to grab his hip, right, and bring it back to the middle. So kind of one of those, right? So he's kind of coming into the middle, and then he's going to start looking down, right, like this. So he's going to come to there, and then his arms are going to come up, right? So he's going to start looking where he's going. So his arms, RK arm, going to kind of pull in again like this. His R8 arm is going to pull in again, right? And up, maybe. Let's just bend him a little bit more like this, right? And maybe even more down like this, just a little bit down as he's going to glide, right? And let's see how that looks. So it's like, and then as he looks through here, the next pose, better save that actually. The next pose, so he's like, rah. He's going to jump, he's going to look, and then when he comes landing in frame 50, he's going to start coming down. So he's going to, I'm going to grab his hip, and then we're going to pull him down. And then we're going to pull his arms up. So his IKs are going to like be almost like he's falling. So IK right. We're going to pull those arms up, back, and up, right, like this. So he's actually got his arms up now. Again, see, you couldn't do this, and again, see, there's some problems there with the actual body parts. But you know, if we had an artist, which we don't, that's why we got me. You know, we're going to tend to do this. He's going to change his head as well. So his head is going to be pointing, and we're going to shift his body the other way. So his hips are also going to be shifted this way a little bit as he starts to land, right? So it looks like this. It goes zoom, and then he lands, right? He's going to land. Notice this only happening here, but we're going to kind of move his natural motion. We're going to do his natural motion based on his locomotion, right? So it's going to be a bit of lift, but see how his feet IK aren't moving. It's kind of staying in the same position. That's what we want. We don't want his feet IK to really shift too much. Otherwise, it's going to feel like he's like skating. Okay, well, let's save that. Silliness. Okay, let's go back to frame 60. All right, cool. Now he's going to land, right? So he's going to land. He's landing, right? And he's going to bring his head up. All right. And he's going to bring his arms down. So his arms are way up there, right? These are just targets, right? So his right arm target is right here. So he's kind of going to bring it down here like this. So he's landing. And the same thing goes with this arm here. It's going to look weird, but the heck. Right, so kind of way down here. Right? And I'm going to give him a bit more of a land. He's going to start to kind of come down in his landing start. So he's going to come down like this, and then he's going to start looking up again. Okay, and that's that pose. So this is what it looks like. It goes, oh, and then he's going to kind of crouch down on frame 110. He's going to crouch down again, and then come back up to normal pose. We're going to do that very simply. So we're going to come down. Again, almost this low. He's going to bring his arms. He's going to hug his arms into him. Right? So his arms are going to come down like this and like this. Maybe up like this. Same thing with his left arm, which is way out there right now. You can't see it, but it's good to bring it into the proper position. And he's going to start looking up again. Right? His head's going to actually change. And his body, that's the other thing that's going to happen. His body's going to rock back a little bit, or rock forward a little bit. So his hip is rock forward a little bit, right? Because he's going to have to absorb that. So as it looks like this. It goes, what? And he's going to kind of come down. I think even more. I think he's going to come lower than that. But that's going to be like, you know, just right down, almost like lower than normal. So it's going to crush him. So up and then lower. And I think he's going to come in, even his arms are going to come down even more. His IK right and IK left. I think those got to come down more. And again, these are just adjustments that you can make, but you know, to the animation. It looks like there's going to be another. So kind of like, boom. Okay, so he kind of brings them down. Oh, boom, right? See how that, there's a couple of frames there that I kind of did that too, right? I was by accident, but it was a happy accident. All right, and then he's going to stand up again, but we're going to do a trick for that. So we're going to move to frame 120 or frame 80, basically. And what we want to do is we want to copy everything from this frame. So we're going to copy all this and go back over here and paste. So how's it look? It goes, boom, right? So it kind of comes out here, and then it kind of stand up again. So, and it may not be perfect. You can play with this a little bit more, but remember, he's not. You can't see the rest of it because this is not locomotion. This is just his animation, right? So save. Cool. We've got his animation running right now, and now we should be able to test it. All right, so let's try this out. So again, we run it. We're going to go back and we're going to things. So it's idle, and if I press space bar, it should allow us to switch. Right now on the console, we have some errors. Let's see if we clear those. And it's not allowing us because I remember we had our controller that was doing everything. And of course, our console is not allowing that to happen, right? But we can test it by going into our animator, right? Because remember, we have this hero idle, and we also have our hero jump animation, which of course we didn't tie it in. Let's go to hero jump. There we go. So hero jump. And what we also want to do is bake our animation because we didn't do that. So here's our hero jump animation. We want to go to our hero, go back to animations. We want to look at hero jump, make sure it's on. And we want to go here and copy it. We're going to duplicate it. So Command D for duplicate. We're going to go back and take this whole thing and put it inside of our pre-baked stuff because we may want to change this later, like maybe next week when we come together after we do our little exam. We'll do that. Idle. So pre-baked. Yeah. So hero jump pre-baked. If that makes sense. Now we don't want loop time. This is only going to happen once. All right. We can do a fall too. Right now we're not doing a fall. We're just doing loop time. So loop time definitely for idle. You want to keep that looping, but this is only once. Jumping only happens one time. Okay, now we have to time it. This is also something that we can work on. But now that we've got it here in hero jump, we're going to go back to this part here. We're going to go to window, Anima2D, and then we want to bake the animation. All right, want to bake that animation, go to hero jump. There it is. And then go to Anima2D bake, which is going to take care of that animation problem. Good. And it adds all these frames. And then when we go back to our game, when we play, we can see that the hero idle is still working. The jumping isn't working because, again, we don't have that controller. But what we can do is, in the animation state, we can change the state to 2. We can see that what's happening. It's a very nice jump, much better than we would have got from maybe a frame-based animation. Some weird stuff is happening, and again, I think we can even do better than this. It's a little squishy, and we could have probably also changed his head so there's more of a. If you really want to be exaggerating, you can do more stretch and squash on the hero as well. We're not going to do that right now. Okay, one more, and this one is going to be the hardest one. That's why I waited till the end. All right, so let's stop this thing. Let us save this thing. Let us save the the project. Let us leave Unity. Let's put this up to GitHub, right? So we're going to say git add dot, yes, git commit -m. We'll say added idle and jump. Oops. Git push origin master, and we're going to do that. There we go. It's pushing that out. Now the last one for this exercise, there's a kind of a little nice file that I'm going to use. I want to have a reference for the walk cycle. Walk cycles are notoriously difficult to do, and I find that you need some kind of reference for you to have this going. I do have a reference. I have a reference that I was using for that I got. So if you look, I'm going to go into my Anima2D demo, and I'm going to go to my assets, and inside my sprites, I had a reference called this walk cycle. And I'm just going to kind of load it up here, but first I'm going to copy it and put it into our project. So I'm going to go back to project. Let me go back to assets. I'm going to go to sprites because it is kind of a sprite, right? And I'm just going to put it out here. But I'm going to put it in another folder. So I'm going to make a new folder called references. Right? And inside my references folder, I'm going to copy this reference. What this is actually a walk cycle. It's a classic walk cycle that you can get a lot of these on the internet. Let's see if this is actually going to open for us, because we're talking about it's the day of crashes. Okay, it looks like this, right? And this comes from angryanimator.com. So this is where I got this resource. It's kind of a cool place. But this is a typical walk cycle. And notice that the light arm and leg is the forearm and leg, the one that's closest to us, and the one that's darker is the one that's farther away. And we have several poses. We want to go from contact to recoil, as an example, to passing to high point. Notice that there's a difference in head heights. We're going to try and do that. Down back to contact, to recoil, back to passing, and then high point again. And there's 2 high points, 1, 2, and then back to contact again, right? So notice this pose and this pose should be the exact same. So we only have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 poses. We already did almost that many for our jump, right? And that's going to be our walk cycle, and it's going to repeat this one. Okay, so that's what we want to use. And we're going to take this into Unity. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, first, let's give you this one. So if you're working with me, you can take it into to work with me. So I'm going to say, again, git add dot, git commit -m, and we're going to say added walk cycle reference, right? Git push origin master. And that's going to push the walk cycle up to GitHub for you. Okay, so that's this thing. Fantastic. Now let's get back into Unity. We don't need this anymore. Just close that up just to reduce memory usage. We get back into Unity, and hopefully, without too much more problems, we'll do the walk cycle. And when we get back, not next week when we do our exam, but the week after, I'll start the rest of the platformer, which is going to be, we'll do the same thing with our enemy. We're going to chop up our enemy a little bit as well, and then we'll give you a chance to practice that. All right, so we can get that going. And I think part of the great thing about this is, like, again, if you run this thing the way it is right now, right? So if I run the project, and you can see how he's idling. It's not as bad. It's not that bad, right? I mean, it's pretty good. And I didn't do this. This isn't my art, right? This is somebody else's art that I've taken and modified, right? And I think you can do the same thing. Okay, okay, great. So I got my hero idle, hero jump. I need to make one more. I'm going to click on my hero, right? I'm going to go to my animations. I'm going to click on create new clip. And in there, I'm going to make another one called hero walk. And that'll be the last one we do today. This is like kind of the stages we have. All right, cool. So what do we do here? Because, we want to create this hero walk. I want to start accessing my arms and legs, my IK. So we're back to this, right? And what we need something else. This is too difficult for me to eyeball, right? Because this is a lot of stuff. For it to look good, you need some kind of reference. So what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to add that back in. That under sprites, remember I added that references? I'm going to add this walk cycle in as another sprite. There it is. It's a bit of a cheat, and we're going to get back and forth on this one. But what I want to do is I want to use the walk reference so that I can get a reference of what it's going to look like. Okay, now very important, very, very important is we don't want to move his legs at all. We can shift his rates, but more or less like where his body is going to be, his center should remain as stable as possible. Otherwise, you'll have some weird motion that you don't want. And I got that when I did my first trial on this one. All right, so yeah, so that's the first thing. I want to move this up a little bit, right? So you can see this thing, and that's our first pose. And just to be a little bit more efficient here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see it so that we can see at least a few poses while we're doing the animation, so I don't have to go back and move this over and over again, because that's going to stop me from animating. All right, so back to this. So we're here in hero walk. We need to get him into contact pose, right? So we're going to go into record. And now this is where we're going to get him into this pose. It's going to look like him. You know, it would have been nice if we could, you know, move his everything into that. So what I'm going to start doing is his arms and legs are going to move. Now I'm going to keep his torso as stable as possible. That is going to be my guide, if you will. It may not look perfect because remember, I'm not an animator, right? I'm a computer programmer and you know, hopefully a game developer, but that's all I am. So I'm going to move his leg back, right? And notice that it's going to go naturally into this pose, right, for his leg. I'm going to kind of move it back, right? Okay, he's got his IK right now for his leg. So that's where his leg is going to be, right? And now the other thing is I want to do is I want to move his foot down as well. So in his leg, I want to move his foot down. So there's this foot. And I want to move his leg, is stretching out a little bit too much there, in a little bit. So it's going to have to come up. There we go. Notice there's a bit of a bend here, and I want to kind of take that as well. Now remember, it's not going to be perfect because you know what? It's a character. It's not a piece of a drawing. So it's going to look slightly different, and we're going to have to play with it until we get to the right position. There we go. That's probably the best that you can do for his contact pose. That's going to be his left leg contact pose. All right, now his right foot. Okay, I'm going to go to his his left foot, the one that's farther away, this dark one. Notice that his heel is here at the extreme, right? And his foot is up. Now he's in a very tall position here, so this is his normal position. So this is this part, okay? And now his arm, his right arm, this is right arm, right? So I'm going to go to his arm IK, right arm. I'm going to pull this forward, and I pull this up, right? So there we go, and then to the right, and up again, right? Because this is where, approximately in this particular case, his body's going to be, okay? His head is going to be up, looking up, okay? And now his arm, his other arm, this arm, his left arm, is going to be behind him. So I'm going to kind of put this arm behind him and up, right, and back. Okay, so now one thing I can't do is I can't really shift his shoulders too much because unfortunately it'll really mess up his body. Now I could try, but every time I've tried to do this, it's kind of been weird. So if I kind of take his shoulder, so that's the actual bone. I know the phone is ringing. It's crazy. All right, so this is the upper arm bone, right? So if I look at his upper arm bone, so only the bones are going to be the ones that are going to be recorded. So upper arm right, this is the one. And if I move this forward a little bit, now I can try, right? It's going to deform a little bit, but what's going to happen is that it's going to, you know, change a lot of stuff. And it's going to try. It's going to try. Okay. Now, same thing with his IK. So if I go back to his IK arm right, So it looks like that's moving. And now I can do the same thing for his arm left. So if I look at not the actual object, but not the IK, but the object itself. So so IK arm, upper arm left, there it is. If I move this back a little bit, you can see that I can probably do that, and it will deform the arm a little bit, but it's going to give me a little bit more room, right, for this. So arm left. I got to be very careful because I'm actually changing his positions. Okay, good. Save. All right. So that's the initial position. That's contact for me, right? So run it. So that's this first position. Now I want to move much slower in this particular case because you know what? We've been moving in steps of 10. This time I'm going to move in steps of 5. So I'm going to move to the 5 frames, and I'm going to do this next pose, this recoil. pose. Now notice it's slightly different. His arm is coming out more, right? His leg is bending. He's going lower physically. And God, I'm glad I saved. But that's the next pose. All right. So let's just close Unity and reload it. Oh, how I love Unity, how I love you. Let me count the ways. Yeah, and I'll reload it, and then this should be able to do maybe a couple more poses before it crashes. How about that? It's really painful, but I guess it gives you a chance to try it yourself by going back and forth. I guess I could save everything each step, but there's no point in this particular case because it'll just save the scene. Luckily, I did save the pose, so that pose is saved, and that's what I really want to work on. Again, I'm not sure why it's crashing so much, guys. I really don't. I've never crashed so much. Could be that I need to download Unity again. Could be many things, right? So I don't know what the problem is. All right, so let's go back to my animation clip, right? So going back to walk, going back to hero, and going back to animation for the hero, and gonna go to walk, and I have this clip, and I'm gonna kind of move to the next point, which is again about 5 frames in. Right, so there's 5 frames in, and what I want to do with this one is I want to go back to my scene, and I want to grab my my IKs, and I want to do this pose. Okay, so that's what I want to do here at this pose position. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. Hopefully, it won't crash on me. So now the foot is flat. So that's the first thing. So I'm going to get my IK right leg, and I'm going to go under my foot. The foot is going to come down. So foot. Actually, not that one. IK foot left. The foot is going to come down. So the foot is going to contact straight on, right? And what I'm going to do, if you notice, it slides in because it's underneath the body. The body actually is going to slump down a little bit. So I'm going to try and from a body position, from a bones, the hip. I'm going to grab the hip, and it's going to squash in just a little bit. So I'm going to kind of grab this and move it down. So he's going to do one of these, right? And I don't want to move forward because if I move the whole thing forward, it'll be bad, right? I want to keep it where it is, and just we can also do it numerically if you want to. Notice I'm moving it like minus 0.2 as an example, if I want to. This is going to come in, so the again the leg right is going to, if you notice, is going to come in more. So it's extended. It's going to come in more, right? And this is going to come up. Right, and the foot is going to point straight down, right? So I'm going to kind of move it so it's this way, right? So that's what's happening here. So I've come down a little bit. The arm, so right arm, it's kind of right into my head. I can't do that. I'm going to put this arm a little bit further out, right? And I'm going to move my left arm back and over. And I'm going to put my head down a little bit. Right, so the position is this. It goes up. Now you can't see what's happening here, but really, remember, you have to consider this is going to move, right? So this is going to move up a little bit more. It's going to be more of a swing to his arm. So that is no good. So his arm's going to swing up a little bit, maybe even his head a little bit higher up. So it'll support that swing. So his right arm right here, and his his shoulder should be more forward too. So I'm going to go to his upper arm on his right arm, and I'm going to move that position forward more, right? And his left arm, he's going to move that position back more, right? And I should shift the hips just a little bit, but I'm not going to move him too much more. If I do that, then I'll lose his original position. So there we go, like that. Okay. All right, so that's the pose I want to capture. Save. So again, it's looking like this. It goes da-da, here, right? So he's going to come back almost as high as before. So at frame 10, it's going to come back up almost as high as before. So now he is going to come back up. So now, if you want to know where the hip position is, right? Notice that it is 0.2. We're going to come back up to 0.2x and actually take the hip position that I have here, copy it, and go to frame 10 and paste it. And now his hip is back. So again, notice that he's there and he's up there like this now. Okay, so that's his hip. He's back up to almost the same height, right? And then what's going to happen is his arm and leg. We can also take his shoulder's going to come back. So his shoulder. So I go back to his arm, his upper arm, right? Is going to come back. So it's going to come back this way, right? And his arm is going to swing down. So that's where this arm IK right is going to come down here like this, right? So until his arm is here like this, right? See? And then his other arm, his IK arm, other arm is going to come in like this until they're kind of in, right? His leg is going to be his IK right leg, right? It's going to is going to move forward, right? So it's going to come over here like this. So IK right leg can move like this, right? Until it looks like it's forward, like this. And then his foot still going to stay where it is because it looks like it's still pointing down, right? We're just going to move it so it's more realistic for our character. So one of these. And then his other leg, IK left, is going to come back, right? And down. So let's just move point it so that it is flat, right? So kind of one of those. Down. And I probably want to bring up his, and just to see what it looks like. So it's like, bam. So that something's wrong. I think something's wrong with his left leg. Like I think it should be up even higher. Like he's actually crouched down pretty much there. He went down too much. So bam. This leg should be higher up. So let's move that, his left leg in the previous pose. So his right leg should be higher up, right? Because he can't be there. And then what's going to happen is he's going to move to here. But what's going to happen is his right leg is going to move up, right? So his right leg is going to move up. And then his right foot is going to point, his right foot, his right leg. And then down a little bit more and over. And then he's going to point his foot down a little bit more. And his right leg will be up. And his right leg is going to be back. Because it's almost like right here, right? And this left leg, I think it needs to come back even more. So this left leg is going to come back more. And it's going to come down. And his, I'm going to have to bring his hip more down as well. His right hip, which is not his leg, but is actually his hip, his spine. But that's not that. His upper leg, upper right leg, is going to come down more. Undo. His upper left leg is going to come down more, which is going to kind of produce that straight-leggedness. Okay, he's got his arms in place and save. What does this look like? It looks like this. It goes down, and then he's going to come up. Well, that's kind of a weird thing, eh? Like he needs help here. So this frame here, Doesn't know what to do to get his arm, to get his leg here, from here to here. It's like he's got a problem getting to here. Doesn't know, the IK doesn't know what to do. Not solving it right. And you know what? Just to help it out, I'm going to, this is right leg, right? That's the problem. It's right leg IKs. It's right leg IK right. Yeah, so I'm gonna bring this down a little bit. And more down. Right, so then it's gonna be more, oops, undo. So it's gonna be more natural. So it's gonna be like that, and then from here down, right? See? So that's a little better. I just had to help it out a little bit. Okay, good. So that's this pose and this pose. All right, let's move this over a little bit more. But you know what? I might as well now move the whole thing. So save everything. Yeah, I know. I've been moving. I've been saving a lot. So on the x-axis, let's move this thing so we can see the next poses. We want this one, and this one. All right. Okay, now this is the high point where he actually comes up. So if I go back to the hero body, and I go back to walk, there he is. And if I go right here, you can see that I have one of these. So I have kind of this kind of thing. And I want to go to pose 15 here. And I want to come up. This is where his head's going to be at the highest point. So it's actually, he's going to be higher than normal. So he's going to actually move up higher than he is, right? So I'm going to go back to his hip, right? And I'm going to move this hip up. So it's going to be like, just like what it shows, almost like one of those, where his head goes higher than normal. Not quite a jump, but just like a little bit raise up. And then notice his right leg is way high, right? So that's why I had to move his hip up to support that. And his other leg is almost doing exactly what it has to do, right? So I'm going to take his right leg, IK. So IK right, and move that forward more, right? And up. So it's still pointing down like it's doing right now, right? And his back leg, IK back, his IK left, is going to be over here like this, right? So that's kind of what it's looking like. And now his arms, his left arm, notice his left arm at the high point is forward. So left arm, we can see it finally. And you know what? He's looking like his shoulders are back. So this is okay, this position. Eventually we're gonna have to put his shoulders back in line. We're gonna do that by putting his arm forward so we can see it. It's pointing to that. And then his right arm is back. So we're taking his right arm and putting it back so that it is here in this position here. Again, I'm just going to put this so I can move it more naturally. So it's going to be like kind of like this. Okay, save. What does it look like? So it's going to be like da-dum, and it's almost like he's jumping and he's going to land on the next part, which is right here. And frame 20, he's got contact again. So he's going to be actually go back to contact position, but it's the other contact position. It's the reverse. So again, what I want to do is kind of bring him down to what he was. So I want to grab his hips. So go back to his hip position, grab it, and then in the contact position here, wherever it is, when I'm recording it, paste. So that's the first part. So now his hips position is in the same position. And I also want to get his head, right? So I want to get his head position, his head rotation, and all that stuff. And then I also want to paste it there. So paste. So head rotation. So forward a little bit, this. And I want to also grab his other stuff, right? So now his leg position is going to be on contact is going to be down. So this one is going to be going to have his right leg down, and he's going to have his foot pointing up, and he's going to have his hips. Actually, his hips are the right position. That's what it's going to be, right? Let's see if that's right. So Yeah, it's almost like I got to move that leg, that hip forward just a touch because it is moving a little bit forward here for his right leg, upper right leg. Move this upper right leg forward just a little bit. And then that'll give me enough room for his IK right to move down. Okay, good. Now, that's one thing. And then his left leg, right, on contact is going to move up and straight. So his left leg, his left hip, upper left leg, hip, move back a little bit. Right, there it is. And then his upper leg, his leg IK left, is going to move up. And his foot is going to point down. And his right leg is going to lift more, move more back, I think. It's probably better that he moves back. He's got contact on both legs. And it's kind of hard to see this because of the way I've kind of did this. But his right arm on contact, his right arm is back here, right? But his left leg, so I'm just going to move his left leg a little bit more. Okay, where's his upper right, upper left, no, upper right leg. Let's move that forward even more. See if a little bit more of a dent there. And then his IK right, move that down. So that's like almost like that's it. Okay, and then move this head up just a little bit. Okay, so how does this look? So it's like da-da and da-da. Save. So messed up here a little bit. That's okay. And then we're going to go to frame 25. And we're going to go now on contact. So he had high, so high point. So high point, right? And then contact, and then recoil is going to be low, right? So he's going to go to a low point, the same point as we had in recoil before. And that was the second one, right? So his hips, we're going to grab this one and we're going to go to copy them. So this was recoil position. So notice that he's come down now. That's important, right? And now what's happening is when his hips come down, his right leg also came down naturally because the IK. So right leg is going to come down. And he's going to plant his foot. That's what recoil is. And then this leg here. So his left foot, IK. IK left is going to come in. Right? And see that's bad, man. And it's going to bring his hip in too. So that means his upper leg left is going to come in. So we're not going to see that, right? That part, hopefully. And his IK left and more foot down. And more IK left. I think it needs to come in a little bit more. That's it. Now, his arms are big, right? His arms back here. This arm is going to swing forward more. So his right upper arm, or his left upper arm is going to move out even more than before to here, right? And his right arm is going to move back and down. And then what's going to happen is his IK right, IK left is going to move up and back. See it? And his IK arm right on recoil is going to go even out further, but we can see it. It's going to come back to here. And that's where that's going to be. All right, and then we're going to have kind of a landing, so he's going to look a little down. Okay, that's a big one. Let's save that And let's see what happens. So it's going to go boom, 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 boom. So 1. And I think what I want to do is here, I want to make his head go up a little bit. So 1. And then as he comes down, he's going to look down. And then as he comes down to his pose, he's going to look up, down more. Right? Save. So it's going to be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah. Save. Sorry, I just want to make sure that I got that, because otherwise, I never know when this thing's going to die. Okay, so there's 30. Now we've done recoil. Let's move this back a little bit more. This walk cycle is going to move 3 more poses. Actually, 2 more poses, and then we're going to redo contact the other side again, right? So 2 more poses. Let's see if we can do this. So hero, we're going to go back to walk, right? And we're going to zoom in because we want to go to about frame 30 now. And we want to do passing. So again, we had a passing before, which means that he's going to come back up, right? So see, oh, that was a warning. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, we survived for a while without it. All right. It's okay. But you can see what we're doing here. Now, it's a long process because of this restarting stuff. But in a real life scenario, it wouldn't take so long. I mean, I'd have a better machine, I guess. And as well as, and some people are going to be like, well, you have a Mac. That's the problem. It's not the Mac. It's because I'm recording and broadcasting and everything else all at once for you guys. Because when I was doing this in practice, it was not a problem. And that could also be a corrupted project. It could be many, many things that, that it could be. I don't know what it is. But I'm going to keep going because we're almost done. And then when we're done this part, we should be okay with this recording. And then the next time we come back together, we should be ready to go. All right, so Unity, open back up again. Yay, and let's move that walk cycle because we don't have the walk cycle at the right place, the right location. Yeah, and I want to go back to move that walk cycle back. So that is going to be right to passing. That's where we are. Save. And we're going to go back to the animation for the hero. We're going to look at the hero animation state. Going to go back to walk. And we're into this 30th frame. We're going to go back to passing. But remember, like we said, we have a passing, which was way back, right? So we have this, and then this is the passing one, right? So kind of this is the hip position that I want. So again, we grab the hip, copy it, and then start recording. When I come to here, record, paste. So now we got our hip, the proper hip position again, which is important. Right now, passing this time he's got his leg here, which is good, but I've got to put his hip and his arm and his right leg forward. So I'm going to grab his right leg in IKs, his IK right leg, or his left leg, sorry, IK left, and I'm going to bring this forward. So notice that is in passing mode, right? There it is. And I'm going to bring his hip, this hip back, right? So his under his hip, under his right leg. I'm going to bring this, I'm going to shift this back a little bit. And his leg, yeah, his leg is going to be straight. So I'm going to go IK leg right. Let's bring this back. It's going to be straight. While his left leg is going to be up a little bit and back and up. That's what's going to happen there. His arm and his shoulder are going to shift back to normal. So his arm, right arm, IK, it's going to shift forward. So let's put it there like this. And his shoulder is also going to shift forward. So shoulder, that is his upper right arm. Upper right arm is going to shift forward. That's what happens to the forward. And then his upper left arm is going to shift back. So this is like the shoulder position of his arm. And then his arm is going to come down on his IK is his arm, upper IK arm. So I'm going to grab it from here and it's going to shift it back to here, the passing position. And I think he's going to look up with his head, right? So that's the thing he's going to do. And save. How does this look? It's going to be like a dome. Dome. And it's going to be in a high point next. Now we have a high point. The high point was here, almost like a jump, right? And then we're exaggerating this guy a little bit, right? Because, you know, he's not perfect. So we're going to grab this high point hip and we're going to go to frame 35 and we're going to paste. That's where the high point is now. So now his high point is there. And we're going to move his left leg. So upper leg is left leg IK. So we're going to move those forward. And his left leg is going to be up, pointed. His right leg IKs are going to be back. Right? And he's going to be looking up this time. Again. And his upper arm, his right arm IK is going to come forward. And his shoulder is going to come forward too. So upper arm right, that's going to come forward more a little bit too. So let's go back to his arm, IK arm, and pull that forward. And his arm left is going to come back, his shoulder. So upper arm left is going to come back. Right? And then his left arm, left IK, that's going to come back here. You can see it and up a little bit. Right? There it is. His hips, let's see if his hips are in the right position. So hips, so we're looking at upper leg right. His right leg is going to come back. His left leg is going to go forward more. And which is going to give rise to his IK leg left. Moving forward, just a touch more. And down. We have to get rid of that part there. And back. And up. And yeah, that's looking pretty good. Let's take a look at that. So it's like dump, dump. And then he passes high point and then contact. He's going to come back down. Guess what we're going to do for the contact? We're going to copy that whole other position again. Right? So we go all the way back to here. We're going to copy this whole thing. So we will copy paste. So all this, copy, but on frame 40, paste. Right? So how does it look? Go like this. So full contact. But boom. But boom. And then it's going to continue, right? So let's see how it looks. So here. Okay, looks okay. I think we're done. Now to test it. So let's get rid of this walk cycle stuff. We'll just get rid of it. Delete it from the scene. Right? And before we bake it, we're going to try it. So the way we're going to do it is we're going to just run it. Okay, so he's an animator. Let's move him to state 2. State 2 is jumping. And state 1, oh, yeah, of course, we forgot to put the hero walk in there. In the animator. Animator. We're going to go back to this part where his hero walk. he needs a hero walk, right? And he needs to point to hero walk, right? So let's just move this up a little bit. Hero walk. Notice that there is another one, this one, and this one. We don't need that one. Delete. Yeah, this one is the one we want, right? So this one's a hero walk. This one, hero jump. This one's hero walk. We don't have a motion here. We're going to add in hero walk. This one. Okay. And I think that'll do it. Let's try it out. So we'll go to 2 jumping and 1 for walking. And that's not bad, right? That's fast. That's really fast because I'm doing, he's repeating quite quickly. One thing we can also look at is in the animator controller for walk, we can see that the speed is 2. Because remember I set it up for that, right? So let us change this. Let's done that. So speed will be 1. And let's just run it again. So run. So I'll go back to 1. That's not bad, right? And that's just using a reference, right? Again, there's some issues. You know, I'd love to see his head walking, his moving back and forth like it used to. But you know what? His animations are pretty cool. Pretty cool, right? All right, now why isn't it animating? And I know why, because we took off the script, right? So here's the animator itself. And we don't have that script. We're going to add a hero script for this. So we're going to go to scripts. So scripts, and we're going to say, which one do I want to add? I want to add the character motion, right? Player behavior is what it's called, player behavior, right? And player behavior should make it work. Let's see if I can do this now. This is before I bake it, by the way. So if I jump, right, jump, and if I do that over and over again, it'll keep jumping. If I run to the right, if I run to the left, it should work now. Jump, run to the right, jump. You know, that jump needs to be a little quicker, but we don't know how it's going to actually be, like how actually it's going to work. But the transitions are nice now. And we don't have a crouch. We can do a crouch. We can do other ones now that we couldn't do before because we didn't have those animations, right? We only had the limited amount we had, right? So it's pretty cool. Jump, right? Idle. Idle on both sides, right? It's pretty good, man. I'm pretty happy with this, even though it crashed a million times. All right, now to make it even better, so it looks even cleaner than this. Let's go back to that clip, that hero walk clip. We'll copy it. So we're going to duplicate this clip, right? There it is. I'm going to pull it into pre-baked clips, right? Here it is, the pre-baked clips. Call this hero walk pre-baked. Pre-baked. Pretty good stuff there, right? Here's a pre-baked. And then what we'll do is we'll go back to his clips. Thank God I copied it. Wow. That's really crazy. Drives me nuts. But hey, it is what it is. Almost done, almost done, almost done. All right. And then after this, we're going to say sayonara for tonight. Yeah. Resolving packages taking its sweet time. Okay. Did the hero get his behavior? No. So let's add that behavior back in. Scripts. And then player behavior. Save. Good. Now we've tested it already, so we know it works. I'm going to go back to my other layout. So I'm going to go back to my Tom's layout. It's going to put me back to this, right? So I can see what the guy looks like, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to bake that clip now. So I'm going to go back to hero walk, go back to main, go to my hero, right? Go to my scene. There it is. Look at that animation. Here it is. Go back to the hero walk animation. There it is. Go back to window. I'll go back Anima2D and bake animation. And this is going to have the clip, save. And now I'm going to take the IK away. So the IK is just there to help us animate. Then I'm just I'm just going to make it so that it's disabled, right? And I can put it back later on. But then when I go back to play the game, or play, you're going to see that it is actually better without IK, right? So if I go to run, right, see that is, and I might have some to do, some stuff to work on. Because I want to make sure that I may have to adjust the blending modes of this. Boom. Boom. Again, we don't have any motion. This is just animation, right? We're talking about right now. So he's actually just hopping around in place. This is what I wanted him to do, right? And his idle state. There we go. All right, so that was, I'm just going to save this. I'm going to file, save the project. I'm going to go Unity close officially. I'm going to go git add dot commit -m added walk cycle. All right, cool. That's pretty good. And git push origin master. Oh, push origin master. All right, so just to recap. So we talked today about Anima2D. That was a really cool system we used. I'm just going to go up here and show you what that is. So if I go to Anima2D, it also has its own website. You can go and do some more hunting of your own. Some really cool tutorials out there as well. I followed one today to get this done, to get this to you. So here's what it is, where it comes from, Anima2D on the Asset Store. It's a free download from Unity Technologies that helps you do keyframe animation as opposed to frame-based animation. That's totally different. So instead of making different frames, we're using keyframes to do that. So that's what we covered today, and how to do keyframe animation a little bit easier, right? Just remember, for next week, we're going to there's going to be a bit of an in-house assignment that we're going to be doing, where you and a team of a few people are going to get together, to do the stuff that you're going to do, to make a little game, and I will talk about that. I'll have something ready for you guys for next Saturday. Remember that there's no actual physical class tomorrow, that you're going to be using these lectures for you, and anything up to and including this lecture could be on something that you're doing next week. Okay, so kind of a little bit of a quick game jam where you build something in a day. You have 4 hours to build something and present it. That's coming up. That's next week. So I look forward to seeing you then. All right, take care.